So why isn't Goran Dragic a member of the Dallas Mavericks already? And could it be a holdup that the Mavericks are unwilling to part with a guy in Josh Green? This is the Gray Area right here on Kevin Gray Sports. My name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there for all things Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. You can catch me on your home of the Dallas Cowboys and Texas Rangers, 105.3 The Fan. Goran Dragic, for a lot of Mavs fans, should already be a Dallas Maverick, but right now that isn't necessarily the case. So what really is the holdup? Well, I think there are a couple of things with respect to why the Mavericks and the Raptors haven't necessarily gotten a deal done for Goran Dragic. And here's what's interesting about it. It seems like both of them are playing a game of chicken here. Now, from the Raptors' perspective, they traded for the 35-year-old in a sign-and trade, of course, to get Kyle Lowry to the Miami Heat and Goran Dragic to the Toronto Raptors at 35 years of age. The Raptors really have no reason to move on from Goran Dragic as of yet if they feel like he can be a rotational piece for them going forward. Well, you say Kevin Dragic is already the one that said that that wasn't his preferred destination, that he has, quote-unquote, higher ambitions, and I will submit to you that, yes, he did say that, but now he has since walked back those comments. While we still feel like Dragic's preference is to play for the Dallas Mavericks and specifically play with former teammate Luka Doncic, it's going to be interesting to see who blinks first in this ultimate game of chicken. For the Raptors, they have a $19.44 million contract with Goran Dragic. It's an expiring contract, and maybe you decide to keep him until the trade deadline to figure if a market will continue to develop for him with respect to potentially getting more for Goran Dragic at the trade deadline. From the Mavericks' perspective, they feel like at some point Masai Ujiri and the Raptors will eventually buy Goran Dragic out, and they are unwilling, it seems, to part with guys like Dwight Powell and maybe even a guy who could be an asset in a potential deal in Josh Green. And I understand it from Mavericks fans' perspective. Why in the world would you trade the one first-round pick that you have maybe for the next several years for a 35-year-old point guard who may not necessarily be what gets you over the top going forward for the next couple of seasons? And I understand that sentiment. But at the same time, if you're not willing to move off Dwight Powell or move Dwight Powell and not offer a sweetener, what reason would the Raptors have to decide to buy out Goran Dragic or ultimately do a deal with the Dallas Mavericks if they do not feel that they will get something in return that will be of value to them given the timeline of where they are? Remember, they just moved on and let Kyle Lowry walk to Miami in a sign and trade. They just drafted Scotty Barnes out of Florida State, and there's rumblings that they may move on from Pascal Siakam. So the question is, what kind of timeline are the Raptors really on, and are they feeling like they can remain competitive if Goran Dragic remains a part of their roster? Ultimately, they are the ones that have to answer that question. But for Josh Green, it's going to be interesting, a guy who won a bronze medal in Australia, in Tokyo, for Team Australia, I should say, and now comes back to the Dallas Mavericks as what should be a valuable piece, whether it be to be a trade asset for the Dallas Mavericks or going forward for this upcoming season, a guy who could potentially be a contributing member and get better under the tutelage of Jason Kidd and this coaching staff. Josh Green met with the media, and I asked him specifically, what's the reason why you have not been and won't be playing in Summer League for the Dallas Mavericks? Here is Josh Green's explanation on that particular front.
I mean, I think, a good explanation would probably be, time change is pretty hard to get adjusted to when you're coming back. Lately, I've been going to bed at about 8 a.m., waking up at 4. Today was the first day I was able to get to bed at around 11-ish, but I woke up at 3 in the morning. But I think everything, traveling as far as that, being around a team setting, I've 2 days after we were out in the playoff series, it's not like, I got straight on a plane, went out to Vegas to start training with my trainer and getting ready for next season, getting ready to be with the Australian team. So, whether those are games or not the games, the practices, our practices were some of the hardest practices I've been involved in. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to get gold medal. We weren't just going to the Olympics just to attend the Olympics. So being around that competitive environment, and I was playing every single day. So, it's just one of those things about, what's best for my body and what's best for the team. But, it really just depends on the upcoming days.
So really, my man hasn't been able to get the kind of sleep that he has desired, and really just now getting back on the kind of schedule that would allow him to be around the team that he is currently right now in Las Vegas. Obviously, a lot of folks feel like Josh Green needs to get the reps right now to be able to improve as a player, but as he has talked about and did talk about, he felt like he got a lot of that good practice time in when he went to Irvine, California to get ready for the Olympics, and then subsequently going over to Tokyo and training with Team Australia and to Vegas, obviously, in preparation during exhibition games to get ready for the Tokyo Olympics, working with his trainer during those 3 weeks to be able to get his game better and then get much more practice time in with veterans like Patty Mills, Joe Ingles, and others that hopefully set him up for success going into this upcoming season. But for Mavericks fans, it's ultimately frustrating given the fact that Josh Green was very rarely used last year by Rick Carlisle and should have a bigger role going into this year, given what the Mavericks haven't necessarily done in free agency to try and address certain areas where the Mavericks may feel like Josh Green could potentially help them, specifically on the defensive end. I asked Josh Green also, what did he learn from his experience in working and playing with veterans such as Patty Mills and Joe Ingles that he can take with him going into this upcoming season for the Mavericks, and the kind of mentality that it will take to be a contributing member to this roster. Here's also what Josh Green had to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think being around some of the best shooters in the world, Australia, with Joe and Patty and Chris Golding, these are some players who I've been out at practice with every single day. I'm defending Joe every single day, going against Patty every single day. It's one thing, just being able to go against them, I've been able to learn so much. And being able to do it in a FIBA setting is kind of helped me out, be able to slow down and be able to see the court more and, take the game one step at a time. And I feel like it's going to help me out a lot. In the NBA level, and I mean, obviously, the group we had around us is some of the most competitive guys I've ever been around, and these guys come fourth in the last 4 tournaments, and since the day we landed in Irvine, everybody's mindset was to go for gold, and that's why I wear Crocs, and everyone on our team was wearing Crocs, and it says "Gold Vibes Only," and it's something I'm going to continue to go through. Just because, the way that they put it, it seems like it's a joke and everything like that. But me being a competitor, everything I do on the court is to be able to win the game. And then completely away from basketball, I'm around some of the best human beings like I've ever been around. It was like a family. Patty Mills, one of the greatest guys. Joe, Joe's Joe. Obviously, big talker in games and everything like that. But behind it all, amazing guy. Della Vadova, Baines. The veteran group was amazing. I could go on, and I think it explains more about, being from Australia, the pride we have in competing for Australia, and, just the togetherness, and it's something that I'm going to continue to do and, try to stay as close as I can to all my teammates and, moving forward, trying to just continue to go.
So Josh Green talking about gold vibes only when it comes to trying winning a gold medal, and the mentality of developing that to be able to be a kind of guy that has that mental edge going forward. But you could tell he is taking the experiences that he had in Tokyo with veteran players such as Joe Ingles, Patty Mills, Aaron Baines, and others to be able to use that to help his game going forward. And it seems like a young man that's motivated to prove why he was the first round selection of the Dallas Mavericks this past NBA draft a couple of years ago now, it feels like. So for Josh Green, it's going to be extremely important for him to put himself in the best position possible, not only to make an impact, but for the Dallas Mavericks and Jason Kidd specifically to use him in a way that accentuate his strengths while also helping him to grow and develop his game so that he becomes a consistent rotational piece. That is what Mavericks fans hope they will see with Josh Green. But if that is the case, maybe he turns himself and develops himself into a valuable trade asset, because really right now, Green is the only real trade asset that only folks would really want. Unfortunately, Tyrell Terry is dealing with a groin injury right now, ill-timed, given what the Mavericks may be trying to do in trying to acquire Goran Dragic, and Tyrell Terry may be a part of any kind of deal. But their unwillingness to move off of Dwight Powell and probably Maxi Kleber also may make this deal a lot harder to get done if you're trying to get Goran Dragic to the Dallas Mavericks. And if you're not willing to throw in Josh Green or move off of him, who knows if you will ultimately be able to acquire Goran Dragic, because it seems like the Raptors, they are very well content on keeping Goran Dragic until either a market develops for him in terms of a trade, or they figure out at the trade deadline what their best move would be, because at that point, all their leverage would be gone at that point. I guess only time will tell. But for the Mavericks, this game of chicken between themselves and the Raptors and ultimately trying to get Goran Dragic is going to be interesting. Could they still find themselves in the market for a guy in Lauri Markkanen to maybe make this offseason a little bit better? Who knows? But ultimately for the Mavericks, Goran Dragic is the number one target, it feels like. And for a lot of Mavericks fans, they are ready to see Goran Dragic in a Dallas Maverick uniform. Could that mean parting ways, though, with one Josh Green? I guess we'll find out. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there for all things Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. It's been another episode of The Gray Area. We'll talk to you later. Peace.